Have you ever noticed that the deepest and everyone becomes accustomed to their mask, to the point they believe it is their real face. Carl Jung called this the persona, the social mask we wear to adapt. It is not inherently bad, for without it, humans could hardly survive in a collective. But when everything is reduced to masks, society no longer runs on truth, but on a silent consensus. Everyone pretending together. Pretending to be cheerful, pretending to be strong, pretending to be successful. This mechanism Jung described with a broader concept, the collective unconscious. It is the deep layer where humanity's shared beliefs, shadows and illusions accumulate and are passed down. And it is precisely this that acts as the engine keeping society running smoothly. You can imagine the collective unconscious as a background soundtrack. We all walk, dance, and move to it, even though none of us clearly hears it. The moment you fall out of rhythm, you are immediately seen as an outsider. Therefore, most people choose the safe solution. Keep aligning with the collective rhythm, pretend not to see the darkness, continue playing their assigned roles. Society appears stable, but in truth, it rests upon a fog. The fog of projection, prejudice, and avoidance of truth. But inevitably, there comes a time when some of us awaken. Do you remember Neo in The Matrix? When he took the red pill, he suddenly saw the real world, a place utterly different from what lay before his eyes. From that moment, he could never go back to believing the simulated dream was real. The awakened individual in society is the same. They suddenly realize heated debates are just two sides projecting their shadows onto each other. That the standards everyone must follow are merely molds created by the collective to maintain control. That laughter and parties sometimes are nothing more than paint covering inner emptiness. Once they see this, they become a glitch in the matrix, a crack in the veil of the collective unconscious. And from then on, they begin to carry what Jung called the curse of consciousness. I once knew a woman working in media who was considered the soul of her company. Always eloquent, charming, able to lead lively meetings, and often the first to propose ideas for advertising campaigns. But over time, she grew quieter. In meetings, instead of speaking passionately, she only listened, observed, letting others argue. Many colleagues thought she was tired or depressed. But in private, I learned the truth. She no longer found meaning in those discussions. To her, most people were only repeating what the majority wanted to hear, not what they truly believed. And so, silence gradually became her only way not to betray her inner truth. There is a compelling metaphor for this. Imagine sitting in a room where everyone is asleep. They dream together, talk in their dreams, argue in their dreams. Suddenly, you wake up. You see clearly that everything is an illusion. But to fit in, you must close your eyes, pretend to sleep, and continue conversing in the dream language. You can do that for a while, but eventually, the pretending becomes unbearably heavy. That is precisely the burden the awakened must endure, not because they hate society. On the contrary, they once belonged to it. But now, to continue existing in the collective rhythm, they must pretend not to see, pretend to agree, pretend to sleep. And it is that pretense that distances them, as if they were standing at the edge of a song they no longer want to dance to. So the question arises, if we remain, continue to integrate, are we not betraying our own awakening? If belonging requires pretending to sleep, does that belonging still hold value? And this is the root of the quiet disappearance. The awakened begin stepping off the collective stage, not out of disdain, but because they can no longer perform. Number 2, energy sensitivity and the incompatibility. Once they have seen the masks and the stage of the collective unconscious, the awakened might think silent observation is enough. But the journey does not stop there, because once the inner eye opens, they not only see, they feel. And this sensitivity turns daily life into a heavy experience. The new vision not only strips away illusions, but also makes their body and soul vibrate with every subtle frequency emitted by the crowd. Humans constantly emit energy from how they speak, how they look, even from unspoken emotions. These energies mingle in any group. For most, it is just the atmosphere. But for the awakened, each wave of energy is as distinct as an electric shock. What others call normal suddenly feels like relentless assault on their nerves and heart. You can picture this like a room filled with fragrances. An ordinary person, after a while, hardly notices the smell. But with a heightened sense of smell, each fragrance, however faint, becomes invasive. On an energetic level, the awakened are like those with this sixth sense, and they begin to realize modern society is essentially an ocean of unresolved energies. In crowds that seem ordinary, they feel as though surrounded by invisible psychological violence. A seminar might gather hundreds seated neatly, listening to a lecture. For the unawakened, it is purely intellectual. But for the awakened, the scene is a storm. They sense the hidden anxiety, destruction. It is a natural reaction of self-preservation. Carl Jung once wrote, "We cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true will at evening have become a lie." Once connected to inner truth, one cannot keep living as before. Any attempt to return to falsehood becomes a form of self-destruction. Energy sensitivity is the body's alarm. Time to leave what no longer fits. And from here, the awakened step into a new spiral of incompatibility with old environments, opening the next stage of trial. Have you seen yourself in these experiences? Perhaps you too have felt that not fitting in a crowd or scrolling social media. If you've ever had such a moment, share your story in the comments. Perhaps your experience will be the mirror helping someone realize they are not alone on this journey. Number 3. Psychological labor and exhaustion. If energy sensitivity makes the awakened no longer fit old environments, then psychological labor is the next stage they face. Carl Jung once used this phrase to describe the invisible but brutal work where an individual must wrestle with their own mind every moment. Unlike physical labor that tires the body, or intellectual labor that strains the brain, psychological labor is a silent war between the conscious and unconscious, between light and shadow within. The unawakened see nothing unusual. For them, society is like a river. Everyone swims downstream, letting the current carry them. But for the awakened, swimming downstream means betraying their true self, so they must swim upstream, and it feels like battling a tsunami. In each conversation, they must filter projections. What is theirs? What belongs to others? Hearing criticism, the unconscious person reacts instantly, anger or defense. The awakened must pause inwardly, asking, "Is this true about me, or merely their shadow?" This constant inner process keeps their mind taut. In personal relationships, psychological labor is even harsher. The awakened often sense their partner's emotions before the partner is aware. When their spouse is angry, they feel it rush in like a cold wind. But to avoid being swept away, they must hold a boundary. This anger is theirs, not mine. Simple to say, exhausting to live. A woman in leadership training once shared her story. Outwardly, her work was admirable, respected, influential, sought after. But she was often depleted. In one day, she absorbed dozens of emotional currents from students, disappointment, anger, despair. For a sensitive, awakened soul, it was like standing under a constant hailstorm. To stay grounded, she had to engage in endless psychological labor, reminding herself not to merge with others' feelings, not to let them take root. Each evening, she felt as if she had survived an invisible war. In such moments, we understand how grueling psychological labor is. It has no hours of rest, no division between work and private life. The inner filter works non-stop. Is this truth or projection? Is this my feeling or theirs? The inevitable result is exhaustion. The body was never designed to bear such invisible workload. Thus, many awakened describe a persistent fatigue, even when doing nothing. A short meeting leaves them drained. A heavy conversation robs them of sleep. Depression, anxiety, psychosomatic symptoms, headaches, breathlessness, chronic fatigue often arise in this stage. Not from weakness, but from working at depths most never touch. It is like an athlete swimming against current. No matter how strong, without rest they collapse. In reality, Many awakened must make painful choices. Some quit high-paying jobs because each workday was an inner battle. Some end long-term relationships because they had become emotional dumping grounds. Some leave social media, cut information streams to protect their clarity. These actions look negative, but in truth, they are survival. It is crucial to see, psychological labor is not always bad. In fact, it signals true inner growth. It is the fee one pays to hold on to awakening. The issue is, no one can keep paying endlessly without balance. When you feel increasingly tired without reason, when ordinary conversations feel heavy, it may not be that you are weak. It may be the sign you are in psychological labor, the mark of spiritual maturity. And once you reach this stage, you must listen to body and soul, for exhaustion is not the end, but the threshold of your next decision. We are now more than halfway through, and I want to thank you for your meaningful presence. Before continuing, pause, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, stay and pretend, or withdraw and be loyal to truth. If these words touch you, leave a single word, loyalty, in the comments. Sometimes one word alone affirms you've chosen to stand with your true self, and perhaps lends courage to someone else in need. Number 4. Why withdrawal is necessary. After psychological labor, the awakened usually arrive at a painful realization. They cannot sustain this forever. The inner filter runs non-stop. Tension peaks. Body and mind cry out. If they remain in old environments, dominated by collective unconscious, by projections, by social masks, they will lose their hard-won awakening. The question is no longer, should I withdraw? But if I don't, am I betraying the truth I've touched? Withdrawal, in the Jungian view, each class felt like standing on a stage where all must act, including herself. Though she loved teaching, she could not repeat the falsity. She resigned, choosing a less prestigious but truer path. Withdrawal can also be seen as ending complicity. Staying is not just enduring, but enabling. By nodding at what is wrong, you become part of it. By silent assent, you strengthen it. The awakened cannot do this without guilt. So withdrawal becomes a clear no, not to people, but to the unconscious system itself. Carl Jung wrote, There is no coming to consciousness without pain. One of the first costs is loneliness upon leaving the crowd. But compared to betraying the self, that price is lighter. For if they stay, the awakened will be eroded, forced to dim their light to blend with the collective shadow. They will live less than they could, like a great tree shrinking to fit a small pot. That shrinking is slow self-destruction. From outside, withdrawal looks like failure or escape. But for the awakened, staying is betrayal. For staying means keeping eyes shut, playing roles to please the crowd. And once truth is touched, no one can go back to sleep. And at the moment of withdrawal, another door opens, the hermit stage, where silence becomes the soil nurturing the true self. But to arrive, they must admit, staying is betrayal, withdrawal is loyalty. Number 5. The hermit archetype. Once realizing that staying is betrayal, the awakened often enter a special stage, withdrawal. But here, withdrawal is not denial of life or escape from reality. In Jungian language, it is archetypal. Jung called it the hermit archetype. In tradition, the hermit is not one fleeing the world, but one entering new space for rebirth. Across ancient religions, images of retreating into forests, mountains, or caves appear as rites of transformation. It is the moment of cutting ties to turn inward, to find the truth buried in the soul. For Jung, this too is essential in psychological growth, leaving the collective current so the self has room to emerge. When one withdraws, they are like a seed buried in soil. From outside it looks like disappearance. But in darkness, germination begins, silent yet decisive. Without this dark phase, no sprout rises. Without the hermit stage, no true self is born. Jung himself lived this. After his crisis in the early 20th century, breaking from Freud, overwhelmed by dreams and visions, he could not continue as the model Swiss psychiatrist. He saw academic norms, scientific assumptions no longer sufficed to express the depths he touched. He could not pretend agreement. So he withdrew to Bollingen Tower by Lake Zurich, built with his own hands. There, he lived simply, carving stone, painting, journaling, conversing with his unconscious. To many it was eccentric seclusion. For Jung, it was loyalty to his self. From this period, his deepest works took form. The hermit is not one who rejects the world, but one who creates space to hear the inner voice. Amid the collective, noise is too loud. Values dissolve into consensus. In silence, the faint voice of the self finally rises. Like water dropping into a deep well, only in stillness do we hear its echo. The hermit retreats to listen. History shows nearly all who brought deep change had hermit phases. Buddha leaving the palace to sit under the Bodhi tree. Jesus retreating into the desert for 40 days. Philosophers east and west living in solitude, so inner wisdom could bloom. Jung noted this is not coincidence, but universal structure of awakening. In modern life, the hermit stage need not mean abandoning all for a mountain. It may be small choices, leaving social media, traveling alone, slowing down in a quiet home. What matters is not the form, but the quality of silence. In silence, soul fragments knit, and a sense of wholeness arises. Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." The hermit is this truth embodied. It is not life denial, but the pivot from dream to awakening, from collective dream to personal truth. It is not easy. It comes with loneliness, doubt, judgment. But therein, a new strength forms. the strength of one who no longer needs outside validation. Sitting alone, facing darkness, one learns to befriend themselves, and from that, true light shines. As Jung had his Bollingen Tower, each of us needs our own Bollingen, a space, a pause, a return. It may be a desk corner, a room, or just a quiet morning. There, we become hermits in the truest sense, loyal to the self, letting inner wisdom grow. And when this stage ripens, the hermit emerges with a gift. But that is the next chapter, when retreat does not end in silence, but opens students, some through a book, a small project, some simply by living in a way that brings peace to others. Whatever the form, the essence is the same, the gift of truth carried from the hermit stage. This also explains why the awakened often choose the margins over the center. They know the center is where the collective shadow swallows individuals. At the margins, they can engage while keeping clarity. And it is there many silent revolutions began, as Jung wrote, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." The modern world desperately needs such returns. Amid noise and fame, few vanish for a time, then return with something truly valuable. They may be few, but they plant seeds of lasting change. And perhaps you too have lived this. After the crisis, you withdrew, silent, less social. Outsiders thought you lost direction. But later you returned, maybe by speaking slower, calmer, creating more. Others saw you were different, though you declared nothing. That is the return after the hermit stage, quiet, but reaching those meant to hear. Ultimately, return is not just for the world, but for your own completion. Awakening is not one way, but expansion. Withdraw, prepare, return, then withdraw deeper again. Like breath, inhaling to receive, exhaling to give. The hermit is inhale, the return, exhale. Through this rhythm, inner life endures, light spreads. Return, then, is not just personal, but collective gift. Each time someone dares to withdraw, face shadow, nurture light, then return to share, the collective rises a step. That change, though quiet, spreads like ripples, slow but unstoppable. If you feel the meaning of withdrawal as preparation for a brighter return, press like on this video. Let it also remind you, sometimes stepping back is not loss, but nurturing the light for a stronger comeback. Number 7. Evolution and new architecture for the collective. The disappearance of an individual from the collective stage may seem like failure, but look closer, and it is evolution. When someone withdraws, they do not merely abandon a position, a role, or an old identity. They open a void, giving the collective a chance to see what was hidden. It is this void that changes structure. Like a suffocating room, only when a door opens does fresh air enter. The awakened withdraw not out of hatred or selfishness. They withdraw because they see that presence in a false system only prolongs it. Staying means collusion. Leaving stops feeding the old. And in the silence of departure, truth begins to appear. History shows collective evolution often begins with disappearances of those who dared step outside. Galileo was condemned for saying Earth is not the center, but his distance opened a new understanding for humanity. Reformers sidelined for harsh truths laid the ground for later generations. Their disappearance was not personal failure, but society's reshaping. In a Jungian therapy session, I heard of a doctor once working at a prestigious hospital where fame and power could raise her further. But the more she stayed, the more she saw medicine commodified, patients reduced to customers in a profit machine. Unable to betray her oath, she quit and opened a small clinic in her hometown. There she treated at fair cost, even free for the poor. At first, many thought she had fallen back. But her humble clinic became a place of hope. Young doctors, inspired by her honesty and compassion, came to collaborate. From her withdrawal, a new structure was born, quiet but alive. As Jung said, "We don't solve our problems, we outgrow them." By evolving, she built a space where people mattered more than systems. Importantly, this evolution does not happen at the surface, where slogans and movements rage. It unfolds quietly, when individuals leave pretense and live truly, creating new spaces. These spaces, small at first, are like underground streams. When they meet, they form a current strong enough to redirect a river. Jung wrote, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity." The new does not come from intellect, but inner necessity. When one can no longer bear pretense, they must leave. And from that seemingly personal act, a new collective architecture is seeded. We often think social change must start with revolutions, with drums, with crowds. But in truth, deep shifts often begin with a few people daring to vanish, to quit the old game. Their disappearance shakes the old foundation, and that tremor lets the new grow. Perhaps this is the lesson for our own lives. When we dare leave a meaningless job, end a hollow relationship, depart a group no longer fitting, we too create space for the new. Space not just for us to breathe, but for others to see another way. that another choice exists beyond playing roles. Is a form of losing self-control, a trade-off of our psychological energy to maintain the satisfaction of others. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." When we constantly focus outward, striving to meet the demands of the world, we unintentionally forget our inner selves, forgetting the necessary awareness to discover our true selves. When you begin to practice stopping readiness, It doesn't mean you become selfish or cold-hearted. It means you start to reclaim control over your own life. It is the moment you stop reacting immediately to every request, every word or action around you. Imagine a familiar situation. Someone sends you a message, and you feel an invisible pressure to reply instantly, fearing that if you don't, the other person might think you are uncaring or disrespectful. This is an automatic reflex that society has programmed into our minds. However, the truth is, responding immediately is not always an act of caring. Sometimes, it is simply a lack of control over one's emotions. When you pause, take a deep breath, give yourself a few minutes, or even a few hours to think, you will realize that many of your previous reactions were unconscious, a result of dependence on others' expectations rather than your own conscious choice. Carl Jung also affirmed, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This automatic reaction is a sign of unresolved unconscious conflicts. When someone hurts you with words, you react instantly with anger or pain. But what would happen if you chose silence? When you do not respond immediately, you have time to observe your emotions, recognize the feelings arising within. This is when you begin the process of individuation, where you separate yourself from unconscious reactions and replace them with intentional awareness, withdrawing instead of arguing, remaining silent instead of justifying. These are seemingly simple actions, but they carry the power to change the entire game. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." When you withdraw from unnecessary conflict, you not only protect your energy, but also force the other person to reflect on themselves. Your silence is a mirror, reflecting their insecurity and lack of control. In a world where everyone is accustomed to retaliation, your silence becomes an uncomfortable void, compelling them to question themselves. Why isn't she reacting? Did I do something wrong? That is the power of conscious withdrawal. Many people fear that stopping readiness will cause them to lose connection with those around them. In reality, true connection does not come from submission or the willingness to meet every demand unconditionally. On the contrary, when you begin to set clear boundaries, insincere people, those who once took advantage of your easygoing nature, will gradually reveal their true selves. You will begin to see the relationships that are based purely on convenience, not on genuine appreciation. A friend who always needs you when they're sad but disappears when you need them is not a true friend. It's a form of exploitation disguised as concern. There is a very telling story about this. A woman named Anna was always the pillar of support for all her friends. They called her at midnight. They asked for her help whenever they faced difficulties, and she was always ready to drop everything to be by their side. But then, when Anna went through a personal crisis, she realized that no one was truly there for her. She began to learn how to say no, no longer immediately responding to every call, no longer rushing to rescue those who only remembered her when they needed something. The result was surprising. Some people left, some people criticized her, but those who remained were the ones who genuinely cared. Anna realized that her unconditional readiness had obscured the truth in her relationships. Carl Jung had a famous saying, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." When you stop being ready, you will realize who truly values you and who is merely taking advantage. Those who once easily manipulated you emotionally will start to feel uncomfortable. They will try to provoke and force you back into that easily controlled version of yourself. But this is when you need to hold your ground. When you are no longer an emotional button, others will have to confront their insecurities instead of relying on you for temporary comfort. Imagine this change like standing in the middle of a room full of strings, each string representing an expectation, a request, or a demand. Every time you respond, that string tightens, binding you more. When you stop reacting, those strings begin to lose their grip, becoming loose and eventually fading away. Those who once held those strings will become confused. They will try to pull harder, but you are no longer at the other end of the line. Stopping readiness is not an act of avoiding responsibility or being cold-hearted. It is an act of protecting your psychological energy and self-awareness. It is the first step to entering the process of individuation, where you are no longer controlled by the expectations of others. Carl Jung pointed out that the greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. And to grow, sometimes we need to learn to remain silent, withdraw, and stop being ready for unworthy things. This change not only transforms the way others see you, but also transforms the way you see the world. When you begin to live on your terms, no longer unconditionally ready, true relationships will reveal themselves, and false ones will simply fade away. That is when you step onto the journey of finding your true self, where inner freedom becomes your greatest strength. Number 2, transformation when stopping readiness. When you stop being ready, not only are insincere relationships exposed, but your psychological energy is also powerfully released and regenerated. This is the transformative step that Carl Jung named psychic energy, a foundational concept in his psychoanalytic theory. Jung believed that the human mind operates as an energy system. Every thought, emotion, or action consumes a certain amount of energy. When we unconsciously react to external stimuli, we release our energy uncontrollably, much like letting water flow endlessly through a broken faucet, wasteful and depleting over time. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." When you react to others' negative behaviors, your resistance not only fails to make the situation disappear, but also deepens and prolongs it. You become someone else's emotional puppet, pulled by strings every time they want to trigger a reaction from you. Imagine a situation. You have a friend who constantly complains and demands your attention. Every time she calls, you feel like you must be there, listen, and provide solutions, even when you are exhausted. With every such conversation, your psychological energy drains, your focus depletes, and your fatigue accumulates. When you stop being ready, you choose not to pick up the phone immediately, not to rush into giving advice. You create enough distance to view the situation objectively. The result is that the other person will either find a way to solve their problems on their own or find another emotional anchor. Meanwhile, you feel lighter, more focused on what truly matters to you. This is the release of psychic energy, where you regenerate and preserve your inner strength instead of letting it flow into meaningless and exhausting dialogues. When you decide to stop being ready, you set clearer boundaries. You only respond when you genuinely have enough time and a relaxed state of mind. You begin to choose which calls are truly necessary and when you need time for yourself. At this point, you realize you are no longer as exhausted as before. Your work becomes more effective and your energy is preserved. Meanwhile, Min also gradually finds ways to solve his problems instead of constantly relying on you. This is the effective release of psychic energy that Jung referred to. Where your fear is, there is your task. When you confront the fear that others may not be pleased when you are not ready, You simultaneously face your limitations and learn how to protect them. Carl Jung also said, "The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong." When you stop unconscious reactions, your mind no longer swings back and forth between emotional extremes. Instead, you begin to feel an inner balance where your psychic energy is concentrated on true values. This leads to a change in psychological patterns, a powerful process that few recognize. In daily life, we often get stuck in repetitive reaction patterns. Someone hurts us, and we immediately react with anger or pain. Someone demands something, and we immediately feel pressured to respond. Many people even unconsciously recreate repetitive situations just to relive old emotions, whether painful or dissatisfying. When you stop being ready and no longer respond unconsciously, you break those psychological patterns. Those who once easily manipulated your emotions gradually lose their control. You are no longer their emotional button. Jung called this the liberation from the archetype of the caregiver, the role of the one who must always be ready to respond and save others. Instead of reacting easily, you begin to choose what is truly worthy of your attention. Imagine a tree tied tightly to a fence. Every time the wind blows, it is jerked in one direction, but when that rope is cut, the tree begins to grow in its way, stronger and freer. The same goes for you. When you stop reacting in the old ways, you begin to decide your actions instead of being manipulated by others' emotions. This change not only affects you, but also forces others to re-evaluate how they treat you. Those who once took advantage of your readiness will begin to feel confused. They will not understand why you are no longer so easily agreeable, no longer replying immediately, present whenever they need you. Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their souls." When you stop being ready, you force others to confront their problems instead of unloading them onto you. This is a powerful purification process because insincere relationships will gradually fade away, leaving only those who genuinely appreciate your presence. Finally, when you stop being ready, you begin to experience a rise in self-sovereignty. You no longer live to please others. You begin to please yourself. This is not selfishness. It is a profound act of self-love. You learn to ask the question, is this worthy of my time and energy? When you answer no, you free yourself from invisible bonds and begin to build a life with conscious choices. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is absolute self-sovereignty, where you are no longer driven by others' unreasonable demands, but determine your path. Look back at the times you were dragged into endless arguments, unnecessary explanations, or one-sided relationships where you were the only one giving. When you stop being ready, you stop nurturing toxic connections. Stop being an emotional button for those who want to manipulate you. Instead, you begin to value every moment, focusing on those who are worthy and the goals that are worth pursuing. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." The rise of self-sovereignty not only helps you control your energy, but also opens the door to deeper self-awareness. You are no longer the reaction of circumstances. You are the creator of circumstances. Think of a romantic relationship where the other person frequently uses emotions to control you. Every time you disagree with their opinion, they get angry or go silent to punish you. Every time you don't reply to their message instantly, they make you feel guilty for not caring. This is how many people, consciously or unconsciously, use emotional manipulation to control you, turning you into their emotional button. Suppose this time, Instead of rushing to apologize or explain, you choose silence. You do not reply immediately, nor do you try to justify your actions. At first, the other person may become even angrier, but eventually, they will realize that this method of control no longer works. You have reclaimed control over your own emotions. When you are no longer a tool for emotional games, you force the other person to face their insecurities. This is how you break old psychological patterns and rebuild boundaries for yourself. This transformation is not an easy journey, but it is the only path for you to achieve inner freedom, mental peace, and completeness of mind. When you stop being ready, you not only change the way others perceive you, but also change the way you perceive yourself. And that is the first step to liberating your true self. The first step to becoming the person you truly want to be. Number 3, awakening through the individuation process. When you stop being ready and begin to re-establish psychological control over yourself, it is not merely a release of psychic energy or breaking old patterns. It is also the beginning of a deeper journey that Carl Jung called the individuation process. This is one of the core concepts in Jung's psychoanalytic theory, symbolizing inner awakening and a return to the true self. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." The individuation process is precisely that privilege, a liberation from social impositions, prejudices, and expectations that others place upon you, so you can become the strongest and most authentic version of yourself. The individuation process is not an easy journey. On the contrary, it requires the courage to separate oneself from the crowd, from societal norms and social pressures. From birth, we are programmed to conform, to seek approval from others. We are bound by invisible expectations that we must succeed, be loved, and satisfy everyone. However, when you stop being ready for those demands, when you begin to ask questions about what you truly want instead of what others expect, you are stepping into the individuation process. Carl Jung asserted, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." Awakening begins from within when you dare to look into your heart, face your truest desires, instead of chasing external ideals. Imagine a woman who for many years lived according to the standards set by her family and society. She must get married, have children, and take care of her family thoroughly. Every decision she made revolved around others' opinions. But one day, after feeling exhausted and lost countless times, she began to question her life. She asked herself, "What truly makes me happy? Am I living for myself or others?" That was the moment she began to stop being ready. Mai no longer accepted invitations to family gatherings that felt forced. She began to refuse unnecessary demands from work and spent more time connecting with herself. As a result, she discovered her passion for art and began to pursue a career in painting. This is the beginning of the individuation process, separating oneself from societal expectations to discover oneself. Carl Jung also spoke about the necessity of unavailability in this journey. He called it creating space to listen to one's inner voice. When you are no longer easily accessible, you create space for self-awareness. Jung believed that it is precisely in that silence and withdrawal that you can see more clearly what belongs to you and what does not. He once wrote, "Solitude is for me a fount of healing, which makes my life worth living. Talking is often a torment for me, and I need many days of silence to recover from the futility of words." Withdrawing from unnecessary interactions, from superficial relationships that do not elevate you, is when you begin to see your truth. It is not a coincidence that those who choose withdrawal, who choose to live less ready, become stronger, more understanding, and more serene. The sacred isolation that Jung named is a sacred form of silence. It is not negative loneliness, nor is it avoiding society. It is a conscious choice to connect with one's true self. Jung believed that in solitude, where we are least alone, when you enter this sacred isolation, you truly confront yourself, no longer hidden by society's noise, no longer distracted by others' expectations. Imagine you are standing in a room full of mirrors. Each mirror is a reflection of others' expectations. You must be successful. You must be strong. You must not fail. When you are always ready to meet those images, you unintentionally lose yourself. But when you step out of that room, away from those distorted mirrors, you begin to see your true face. That is the power of sacred isolation. In many cultures, those who seek enlightenment must go through a period of seclusion, a form of stillness, to explore the deepest self. Buddha meditated under the Bodhi tree for many days to find the truth. Greek philosophers like Socrates or Plato often withdrew into silent spaces to reflect. Even in Christianity, Jesus left the crowds to spend 40 days in the wilderness before returning to his mission. Carl Jung understood the value of this separation and called it sacred isolation, where all external noise is set aside so you can listen to your voice. The individuation process is a journey back to the true self. When you dare to step away from societal constraints, stop being always ready to meet every expectation, you begin to live more selectively, investing time and energy in what truly matters. Carl Jung affirmed, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. Your life is unique, and the individuation process is the journey where you create your path, not based on standards that others impose." Awakening through individuation is a journey of freeing oneself from the burdens of social conformity to become the strongest version of oneself. When you stop being ready for unreasonable demands, you are creating space to build yourself fully. That is when you step into the journey of self-awareness, of true freedom, and of harmony with your most authentic self. So, are you ready to step into the individuation process, to stop living according to external expectations and find your true self? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to know what is holding you back from making this transformation. And if you have ever experienced Jung's sacred isolation, tell me how it felt. I believe your story will inspire many others. Number 4. Practical application and practicing conscious unavailability. When the process of individuation begins to awaken within you, you will gradually realize the power of stopping readiness and embarking on the journey to rediscover yourself. But how can this become a reality instead of just a lofty theory? That is when the concept of conscious unavailability emerges. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Stopping readiness is not a negative act. It is an intentional awakening. You are creating the necessary space to see what truly matters, to eliminate unnecessary distractions, and to re-establish boundaries for yourself. One of the most powerful practices to begin this process is conscious silence. In a world full of noise and haste, silence becomes a kind of luxury that not everyone can easily access. We are often swept up in meaningless arguments, unnecessary provocations, and constant demands from those around us. Imagine a meeting at your company where your colleague tries to provoke you with negative comments. Usually our instinct is to react immediately, to justify ourselves, or to retaliate to protect our ego. However, when you choose conscious silence, you are not only refusing to give control of your emotions to others, but also creating a powerful space of stillness. Carl Jung observed, Silence is not the absence of something, but the presence of everything. Silence is not a lack. It is the presence of awareness and absolute calmness. Those who can maintain silence in tense situations are often the ones who control the situation best. They do not get caught up in the emotional whirlwinds of others, nor do they allow negative words to hurt or distract them. For example, Mahatma Gandhi was a master in practicing conscious silence. Throughout his life of struggle, he faced numerous attacks, criticisms, and misunderstandings. Instead of responding, Gandhi chose silence and acted through steadfastness. He once said, "In the attitude of silence, the soul finds the path in a clearer light, and what is elusive and deceptive resolves itself into crystal clearness." Gandhi's silence was not avoidance. It was a way to declare his spiritual power. Along with silence, setting clear boundaries is the next important factor in the journey of conscious unavailability. Society seems to always expect us to be present at all times, everywhere, ready to respond to every invitation or request from others. However, when you learn to say no without justification, you are asserting your control over your life. This is not selfishness. It is a necessary protection to maintain psychological energy and mindfulness. Carl Jung once said, "The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into torturers." Those who do not know how to set boundaries for themselves are often the ones most easily hurt, and they also tend to hurt others. A prime example of setting boundaries is the story of Steve Jobs. He was famous for his ability to focus on what mattered and say no decisively. During his leadership at Apple, Jobs rejected numerous potential projects just to focus on a few strategic products. This decisiveness helped Apple become one of the most valuable brands in the world. He once said, "Focusing is about saying no. When you say no to things that are not important, you are saying yes to truly valuable things." Additionally, observing instead of reacting is a powerful technique that helps you protect your psychological energy and maintain mindfulness. When you stop reacting instinctively, you allow yourself enough time to observe and analyze the situation. Carl Jung pointed out, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. When someone deliberately provokes or attacks you, observation helps you identify your emotional triggers. Instead of becoming angry or feeling hurt, you learn to understand the root causes, and from there, your self-control becomes stronger." A real-life example of this is Nelson Mandela. During his years of imprisonment, Mandela learned to observe instead of react to the mistreatment and disdain from the prison guards. This observation helped him understand the fear and insecurity of his enemies. Later, when he became president of South Africa, Mandela chose dialogue and reconciliation instead of revenge. That was a manifestation of deep understanding and the ability to control emotions rather than being controlled by them. When you begin to stop reacting, you will see more clearly who truly values you and who only comes to you when they want something. Superficial relationships will begin to fade, while genuine ones will stay. This is not a loss, it is a necessary purification. Carl Jung once said, "Knowing your darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." When you understand your limits, you easily recognize exploitation from others and know how to protect yourself more effectively. Finally, conscious unavailability is not about shutting the world out entirely. It is about intentional selection. You do not need to answer every call, reply to every message, or attend every social event just out of fear of being judged. Instead, you spend time with the people and things that truly matter, those that nourish your soul and enrich your life. Jung affirmed, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another." There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. There is no universal formula for life. You need to find the way of living that suits you best, and sometimes that begins with knowing how to be consciously unavailable. A prime example is the story of Lisa, a graphic designer living in New York. Lisa once shared that for many years, she always felt the need to attend every event her friends organized, from birthday parties and weekend meetups to corporate parties. She did not dare to refuse any invitation for fear that if she did not show up, others would think she was cold or distant. However, after years of constantly attending social gatherings, Lisa felt exhausted, her work stalled, and her mental health deteriorated. That was when she decided to make a change. Lisa began practicing conscious unavailability. She carefully selected the events that truly mattered and only participated if she felt comfortable. The result was that Lisa had more time for herself. She began painting again, reading more books, and practicing yoga to recharge her energy. Not only that, but her truly sincere relationships also became more apparent. Those who understood and respected her choices stayed, while superficial connections gradually faded away. Another example is the story of Marie Kondo, a world-renowned expert on decluttering and minimalist living. When she began her journey of transforming her life, Kondo decided not to participate in social gatherings that she felt did not bring value or real connection. Instead of spending time on unnecessary appointments, she focused on her family, wrote books, and developed her career. The result was that her philosophy of minimalist living spread worldwide, becoming an inspiration for millions. This is a clear demonstration of the power of conscious unavailability. When you choose what truly matters, your life becomes more meaningful and focused. Practicing conscious unavailability does not mean you become distant or isolated from the world. It means you begin to choose more wisely. You do not need to reply to every message immediately. You do not need to agree to every social invitation or attend every event just for fear of being judged. Instead, you choose to focus on the people and things that truly matter, those that bring spiritual value and nourish your soul. This not only helps you protect your psychological energy, but also creates the necessary space for you to develop yourself more deeply. So, are you ready to practice conscious unavailability to focus on what truly matters in your life? Try starting by declining a social invitation that you feel is unnecessary, or stop responding to negative conversations. Share your feelings in the comments. I believe this choice will be the first step for you to discover the power of focus and self-mastery. Stopping readiness is not a detachment or indifference to the world. It is a fully conscious act to protect yourself and regenerate your psychological energy. When you choose silence instead of arguing, withdraw instead of reacting unconsciously, and set boundaries instead of always accommodating, you are gradually reclaiming control over your life. This is how you reshape relationships, eliminate toxic dependencies, and remove superficial connections. You are no longer someone else's emotional button. Instead, you become self-governing, focused on what truly matters. This process is not a severance from the world. It is a journey back to yourself, a journey that Carl Jung called individuation. When you stop being ready, the things that do not belong to you will gradually fade away. Insincere relationships will reveal themselves and naturally depart. Conversely, those who truly value you, along with genuine values and inner peace, will remain. Just as Carl Jung said, "You are not abandoning the world, you are returning." In life, we often carry within us the desire to control everything, from careers and relationships to our own emotions. We worry when things don't go as planned and feel lost when the future becomes uncertain. However, Carl Jung, the famous analytical psychologist, proposed a paradoxical philosophy. When you stop worrying, everything up. How can this natural alignment become part of the individuation process? Let's explore this philosophy through the lens of Carl Jung. Number 1. Carl Jung's philosophy of letting go. Have you ever wondered why the things you try hardest to hold on to are the easiest to slip away? Like holding sand tightly in your hand, the more you squeeze, the more the grains slip through your fingers, leaving behind only an empty space. Carl Jung, the renowned psychologist, once stated, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." This is not just a profound philosophy, it is also the key to freeing the mind from the cycle of suffering and anxiety. In a world where we are constantly obsessed with control over relationships, control over careers, control over emotions, we often forget that this very resistance is the root of chaos. Letting go is not failure. It is not surrendering to fate. It is opening the door for everything to return to its rightful place. It is an act of inner strength, where we stop seeking superficial control to listen to the guidance from deep within. Only when we cease to struggle against the storm of anxiety does the sky truly clear. Jung's philosophy of letting go is not about giving up or abandoning responsibility. On the contrary, it requires courage and deep wisdom. Letting go means ceasing to force yourself and others to conform to your expectations. It is a state of openness, unafraid of uncertainty. When we stop trying to control every aspect of life, a new space opens up, where new opportunities and possibilities emerge. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." To do that, we need to accept ourselves with all our weaknesses, shadows, and fears. Imagine you are trying to hold on to a relationship at all costs because you are afraid of losing the person you love. You try to control every detail, every action of your partner, fearing that if you let go for even a moment, everything will fall apart. But what is the result? You feel exhausted, the other person feels suffocated, and the relationship becomes tense and strained. Carl Jung recognized that this need for control stems from the ego, a part of the mind that wants to protect itself from pain. The ego makes you believe that if you can control others, you will be safe. But this act of control only makes things more chaotic. The ego tries to create order from the outside, while the self encourages harmony from within. When you let go, you stop imposing expectations on others and allow them to be themselves. That is when true healing in the relationship begins. Jung believed that excessive control is a sign of insecurity. We control because we fear loss, we fear failure, we fear not being loved. But interestingly, that very fear is what causes us to lose ourselves. In The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This means that instead of trying to control and force things, we need to face our inner fears, recognizing that darkness is not the enemy but an inseparable part of who we are. In a real-life story about a friend of mine, he once suffered greatly after losing a job he loved. For months, he tried to hold on by applying to dozens of companies, controlling every little detail to prove his worth. But it only made him more exhausted and depressed. One day he decided to stop, to let go of control. He spent time understanding himself, accepting that his old job was in the past and might not come back. Not long after, he received an invitation to work at a non-profit organization, a completely different job that brought him peace and genuine happiness. That is the power of letting go. Letting go is also related to the concept of synchronicity, a phenomenon Jung described as meaningful coincidence. When you stop trying so hard, unrelated events happen to connect in surprising ways. Like the time I randomly decided to take a walk in the park instead of staying home to work. And I ran into an old friend I hadn't seen for years. That meeting stirred up many memories and reminded me of my long-forgotten passion for art. When you let go of control, life naturally brings unexpected things that you could never predict. Jung once said, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." To let go, we need the courage to look straight into our own hearts, to recognize the fears and sufferings we have long avoided. That is when the darkness within is integrated, becoming part of our inner strength. At that point, control is no longer necessary because we are strong enough from within. Carl Jung's philosophy of letting go is a lesson in courage and freedom. When you stop straining to control, you may be surprised to find that what remains is peace and harmony. Life is no longer a constant battle against expectations, but becomes a natural flow where everything finds its place. Letting go is not failure. It is the journey back to oneself, where the ego makes way for the self, where anxiety dissolves and peace reigns. Jung pointed out, the greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. Letting go is the way to overcome obstacles by growing stronger from within, and that is true power. Number 2, letting go is not giving up. Letting go is not an act of irresponsibility or weakness. It is the liberation of the mind from invisible constraints. But does letting go mean giving up? That is something many people often confuse. In reality, letting go and giving up are two entirely different concepts. So what is the difference? Let us step into the next journey of exploration, where we clarify this idea through the lens of Carl Jung. There is a significant difference between letting go and giving up. Yet ironically, many people confuse the two. Giving up is when you look at a problem, a relationship, or a challenge, and decide to turn away because you lack the strength to face it, or the faith in the possibility of change. It is a state of failure, helplessness, and loss of hope. In contrast, letting go is when you accept that not everything is within your control, that some things need the freedom to grow in their own way. Letting go is the way to recognize what belongs to you and what does not, thereby freeing yourself from the invisible bonds of fate that you have created. In reality, this confusion stems from the fear of losing control. We often try to hold on to what is familiar because we are afraid of change, fearing that if we let go, everything will fall apart. But have you ever wondered if that clinging truly makes you happy? Take a simple example. A person in a toxic relationship where hurt and suffering repeat over and over, yet they still try to control the other person with the hope that things will change. They believe that if they are persistent enough, everything will get better, but the truth is, nothing changes. Carl Jung explained this through the concept of individuation, the process of becoming oneself. It is when a person begins to understand themselves, recognize what belongs to them, and is ready to let go of what no longer serves their personal growth. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Letting go in this case is not giving up. It is liberating oneself from unnecessary burdens, clearing the path for genuine personal development. Carl Jung once described that, during the process of individuation, a person must not only face their light, but also accept their darkness. I must also have a dark side if I am to be whole. Letting go is not abandoning your desires or dreams. It is refusing to control what is beyond your reach. It is stopping the attempt to change others, stopping the imposition on situations you cannot alter, and instead focusing on internal development. It is like someone who tries to change their partner's personality in a relationship. They nag, complain, and set unrealistic expectations, hoping the other person will become the ideal figure in their mind. But in the end, it only creates fatigue, disappointment, and division. Only when that person accepts that they cannot change others do they begin to reflect on themselves and change their own behavior. That is when peace and understanding emerge, because when we let go, we stop expecting, we stop controlling, and we focus on our own journey. Imagine a woman who spent her entire youth pursuing her career. She constantly pushed herself to be perfect at work, from presentations to major projects. Every time she failed, she felt useless and lost. But when she began her journey of individuation, she realized that her excessive expectations and fear of failure were the reasons she could not enjoy the achievements she had made. She began to let go of her notions of perfection, learning to accept that mistakes are part of life, and gradually found peace in her work. There is a story that beautifully illustrates this philosophy. A Zen master was leading a group of students across a rushing river. He saw a beetle struggling in the water, its wings flapping wildly in vain. Without hesitation, he reached down to save it, but the beetle squirmed and bit his hand. Blood dripped, yet he did not stop. The student beside him asked, "Master, why do you keep trying to save it when it keeps hurting you?" The Zen master smiled and replied, "Its nature is to bite, and my nature is to help. Why should I abandon my nature just because it acts according to its own?" This story shows that letting go is not abandoning your good nature. It is stopping the expectation that everything must change according to your will. Carl Jung believed that when we let go, the mind becomes lighter, more open to receiving new opportunities. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Letting go does not mean stopping effort or striving. It means stopping the attempt to change what is beyond your control, ceasing to imprison yourself in unrealistic expectations. When you let go, you are no longer chained by anxieties or disappointments. Life becomes natural, gentle, and you begin to experience true freedom. To conclude, letting go is not weakness, nor is it giving up on your desires or passions. It is a fully conscious act, a powerful choice to free yourself from invisible constraints and focus on what truly matters. Carl Jung was right when he said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another." There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. Letting go is finding the right pair of shoes for yourself to walk firmly and gently on your own path. No longer bound by meaningless pressures, It is the ultimate liberation, the journey back to your true self. Number 3. Synchronicity. When life arranges itself. When you understand that letting go is not giving up, but freeing yourself from unnecessary burdens, you begin to create space for miracles to appear. And it is in that moment of letting go that a special phenomenon Carl Jung called synchronicity begins to unfold. This is not mere coincidence, but a meaningful connection between events, as if life arranges itself in ways we never anticipated. Have you ever experienced seemingly random moments that changed the course of your journey? If so, join me as we delve into this miraculous phenomenon. Have you ever experienced the strange feeling of thinking about an old friend after many years without contact, only for them to unexpectedly appear the very next day amidst a crowd of people? Or have you ever been struggling with a major life decision and happened to come across a book with a title that seemed to answer all your doubts? Carl Jung called this synchronicity, meaningful coincidences. Unlike random events, synchronicity occurs as if whispered by the universe, reminding us that everything is invisibly connected, and when we let go of control, everything arranges itself perfectly. Jung once said, "Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see." This philosophy of Jung is not just theoretical. It is evidence of how life operates. When we let go of anxiety and control, the mind becomes serene and open. That is when we begin to notice signs that we never saw before. Jung believed that the universe operates according to a hidden order that only reveals itself when we free ourselves from the bindings of the ego. This is not magic. It is the natural synchronization of all things. In his book, Synchronicity and a Causal Connecting Principle, Jung described this phenomenon as a mystical connection that transcends conventional cause and effect, a form where time and space become fluid, allowing the seemingly impossible to become real. Imagine you just went through a painful phase where you had to let go of a relationship you once cherished deeply. The first days were difficult. The memories and the emptiness made you want to go back, to control things, to make them as they once were. But then one day, you decided to let things flow naturally, to release your grip and start rediscovering yourself. You signed up for a painting class every weekend, simply to soothe your soul. At that class, you unexpectedly reconnected with an old college friend, someone you had lost contact with long ago. That brief conversation led to an opportunity to join a major art project you had always dreamed of. This was not mere coincidence. It was synchronicity, when the universe arranges miracles for those who dare to let go. Have you ever experienced something like that? If you have, share your feelings below, because sometimes your story can inspire many others. Carl Jung explained that for synchronicity to happen, we need a very important element: relaxation and faith in the natural process. He wrote, "We must be willing to let go of the life we've planned, so as to have the life that is waiting for us." This requires a deep trust in the universe's operations, understanding that sometimes what we perceive as loss is actually an opportunity for things to rearrange themselves in a more perfect way. Many people find it difficult to let go because they fear that if they do not control everything, chaos will take over. But the truth is the opposite. When you stop forcing things, life begins to find its natural balance. The story of Steve Jobs is a clear testament to this philosophy. In 1985, he was forced to leave the very company he founded, Apple. It was a massive shock, a failure that seemed irreparable. But instead of sinking into despair, Steve Jobs chose to let go of old expectations and move forward. He founded Next and Pixar, companies that later became icons of technology and cinema. And miraculously, nearly a decade later, Apple acquired Next, bringing Jobs back to the leadership role. It was during that time of letting go that he was reborn, helping Apple become the technological giant it is today. This is a form of synchronicity, where seemingly unrelated events aligned perfectly to create something monumental. Synchronicity does not only happen to famous people, it also exists in our daily lives. It is when you accidentally read an article just when you're feeling stuck or run into an old friend exactly when you need support. It is when the universe nudges you toward unexpected opportunities, simply because you were willing to let go of what no longer belonged to you. Carl Jung once stated, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." Letting go does not mean losing what is important. It creates the space for the right things to appear. Synchronicity is evidence that when we stop forcing life to follow a predetermined path, the universe arranges everything in the most perfect way. Like the pieces of a grand puzzle, they find their place naturally when we stop trying to force them. Letting go is not a loss. It is a journey that opens the door to new possibilities. Carl Jung was right when he said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." When we release control, life begins to rearrange itself, and miracles appear, sometimes as meaningful coincidences, sometimes as life-changing transformations. Would you like your life to be arranged in that miraculous way? Number 4. How to let go. Practical application. Meaningful coincidences are not just random occurrences. They are reminders that when we let go, life finds its own way to arrange itself. But how can we truly let go consciously so that the magic of synchronicity appears more frequently in our everyday lives? This is when we need to learn how to apply the methods of letting go in practice, step by step, freeing the mind from the burden of anxiety and control. Carl Jung called this shadow work, and it is also the practice of mindfulness to live fully in the present. So, if you are ready, let's explore the concrete steps to free yourself from these invisible burdens. Letting go is an art, a challenging journey that not everyone can easily undertake. Anxiety and feelings of inadequacy are deeply rooted in our minds. We are often obsessed with control, controlling emotions, controlling relationships, and even controlling an uncertain future. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." The truth is, the fear of losing control does not make us stronger. It only traps us in the cycle of anxiety. When we try to control everything, the mind becomes narrow, confined by unrealistic expectations. On the contrary, when we let go, we begin to see new possibilities, doors opening that we never noticed before. To truly let go, the first step is to identify the root of your anxiety. Have you ever asked yourself what you are really worrying about? Losing a relationship? Failing at work? Not being recognized by others? Or simply the fear of not being good enough, not being worthy? Carl Jung explained that most of these anxieties stem from the ego, the self that always wants to protect itself from harm by controlling everything around it. The ego does not accept uncertainty. It cannot handle the feeling of being out of control, and thus it tries to hold on to everything tightly, to the point of suffocation. One of the first steps to letting go is to clearly recognize the emotions happening within you. Every time you feel anxious, disappointed, or stuck, sit down with a notebook and write down 3 things you are feeling. Do not just write simply, "I feel sad," or "I feel anxious." Go deeper. "I feel anxious because my work is not progressing well. I am afraid that if I don't finish on time, people will judge me as incompetent." When you write down these thoughts, you are bringing those vague emotions into clarity and consciousness. This exercise not only helps you identify your worries, but also lightens the burden of them. When you take those feelings out of your mind and put them on paper, they no longer swirl around endlessly in your head. A small tip to optimize this exercise is that each time you finish writing, ask yourself, is this really as terrible as I think it is? And if the worst happens, what could I do? This helps you mentally prepare and also realize that fears are often just exaggerations of the mind. A young woman always felt anxious before her presentations at work. She feared she would forget her points or be judged by her colleagues. But when she began practicing emotional journaling, she realized that this fear came from her high school days when she had been criticized by a teacher in front of the class. Recognizing this fear helped her stop avoiding it. Instead, she prepared more thoroughly and gradually let go of that invisible anxiety. Carl Jung believed that the only way to overcome fear and anxiety is to face it. He called this shadow work, the process of confronting the dark parts of the soul instead of running away from them. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This means that to free yourself, you need to look straight at the wounds and painful memories you have been trying to hide. A person who experienced a heartbreaking breakup, if unable to face that pain, will carry that wound into new relationships, creating cycles of doubt, control, and jealousy. But if they dare to face that pain, acknowledge that loss is a part of the journey, liberation will appear. That is when you understand that others are not the cause of your pain. Rather, it is the unhealed wounds from the past that are controlling you. Only when you dare to look into the darkness can light shine on the path ahead. Imagine a mother who constantly worries as her children grow up and begin to move away from her embrace. She feels loss and fear, continuously controlling their schedules, friends, and activities. Every mistake or small risk makes her panic, as if the pain of loss would become more real. But when asked why, she realized she had been abandoned in her childhood, which deeply imprinted in her mind the obsession with not being loved or protected enough. The process of shadow work helped this mother recognize the fear from her past, accept it instead of trying to control her children, allowing both her and her children to be freer and more peaceful. Another familiar example: an office worker was always obsessed with perfection, feeling stressed whenever there was even the slightest mistake. He did not dare delegate work to others, did not trust his team, and tried to control everything by himself. Through self-awareness, he realized that his fear of failure stemmed from his childhood, when he was constantly criticized for not having perfect grades. Recognizing and acknowledging that wound helped him feel lighter, start to trust others, and enjoy his work instead of always being in a state of tension. One simple method to begin shadow work is to ask yourself questions. Whenever you feel angry, frustrated, or excessively anxious, pause and ask, where is this emotion coming from? What in my past has caused me to react this way? Is this a current fear, or is it an old wound that I haven't resolved yet? Try to recall the times you lashed out irrationally at loved ones. Was it really because of their actions, or was it a reflection of a long-suppressed pain? If you feel jealous when others succeed, instead of hiding or denying it, acknowledge that emotion. Ask yourself why you feel that way. Is it because you fear you're not good enough? Is it because you've failed before and that fear still lingers? Only when you confront and name your fear can you begin to let it go. Alongside shadow work, another powerful practice for letting go is mindfulness. This is a method that helps the mind return to the present without being entangled in the past or worried about the future. Jon Kabat-Zinn, the founder of the modern mindfulness movement, once defined it as, mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. When practicing mindfulness, we learn to release unrealistic expectations and accept reality as it is. You can start simply by paying attention to each breath, feeling each step, listening to the sounds around you without trying to control them. Meditation is an excellent method to help the mind become calm and free from the cycle of anxiety. Each morning, take 5 minutes to sit quietly. You don't have to sit in a traditional meditation posture. Just sit comfortably, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Feel each inhale and exhale, gentle and steady. When your mind starts to wander, gently bring your attention back to your breath. No forcing, no attempting to stop your thoughts. Just observe and return to yourself. Imagine an early morning sitting down with a warm cup of tea. You close your eyes and take a deep breath. Feel the aroma of the tea, the warmth spreading through your fingertips. Listen to the breeze passing through the window. This is mindfulness. When you live fully in each moment, all worries about the past or future fade away. When you walk, instead of wearing headphones and rushing, listen to the sound of your footsteps, the wind blowing, feel the movement of your body. When talking with loved ones, truly listen instead of planning your next response. Living fully in the present helps you escape the torment of the past and anxiety about the future. You will realize that the present moment is all you truly have. A man always felt stressed every morning before heading to the office. He would check his phone and work emails the moment he opened his eyes, pulling his mind into a spiral of anxiety. But after trying just 5 minutes of meditation each morning, he noticed a remarkable difference. Instead of rushing through his schedule, he started his day with calmness and a sense of peace. Everything seemed to become lighter and less pressured. Instead of thinking about letting go of big things, start with small things. Every day, choose one thing you usually cling to and let it go. It could be the habit of constantly checking your phone or the obsession with an old mistake. Simpler still, try to let go of the stress of being stuck in traffic. Instead of getting frustrated, turn on a favorite song and enjoy the moment. By letting go of small things, you are training your mind to accept uncertainty without needing to control it. This is the first step towards inner freedom. Carl Jung once said, "We cannot change anything until we accept it." Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. An office worker was obsessed with checking work emails constantly, even after work hours. He worried that if he didn't respond quickly, things would go wrong. After practicing letting go little by little, he began turning off email notifications after 8 p.m., dedicating time to his family and himself. Surprisingly, nothing terrible happened. Instead, he felt freer and less stressed. Letting go also requires an important element: accepting what cannot be changed. Many people find it difficult to let go because they fear that if they don't control everything, chaos will ensue. But the opposite is true. When you stop forcing things, life begins to find its natural balance. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." It is a reminder that real power lies in our choices, not in trying to change what cannot be changed. Letting go is not surrendering. It is opening a new door where freedom and serenity are waiting. Every day you practice letting go, each small exercise to free your mind is a step on the path to inner peace. When we get used to relaxing, mental burdens gradually fade, leaving open space for freedom and serenity. And that is the greatest meaning of letting go that Carl Jung wanted to convey. Letting go is not a loss. It is a journey of liberation to find yourself, a journey to free yourself from the chains of expectation and control. Letting go is not an end, but the beginning of a deeper understanding of oneself, a pathway back to inner peace. Carl Jung's teachings are a powerful reminder that by releasing the need for control, we allow life to unfold in its perfect design, leading us back to who we truly are. Letting go is not failure, nor is it giving up on dreams or desires. On the contrary, it is the most courageous act one can do to free themselves from invisible chains, from nameless fears and anxieties that have imprisoned the mind for far too long. Letting go is a journey of looking deep within the self, a process of purifying what no longer fits, so that each step becomes lighter and more serene. Life is a flowing stream, and we cannot control everything. There will be losses, failures, and inevitable wounds. But that does not mean we are trapped in suffering. Letting go is the way to open ourselves to change, to welcome new things, and to allow the universe to arrange everything in its natural order. As Carl Jung once said, we must be willing to let go of the life we've planned, so as to have the life that is waiting for us. When we let go, we do not lose ourselves. Instead, we find ourselves in a fuller, deeper way. Try to imagine life as a great river, where each event, each relationship, is an intertwining flow. When we try to control the water, it becomes chaotic and full of ripples. But when we learn to let go, the flow becomes gentle, and everything finds its place in harmony and peace. Life is the same way. When you stop worrying, stop controlling, everything naturally aligns itself in the right place. So,